these are things that you have to remember. First, yung storage. Okay, yung storage ng machine nyo. Itong lab machine ko, okay, nasa bahay ko ngayon, in Singapore. Itong lab machine ko, ang ginawa ko, meron akong external na storage na ICE kasi yung connection sa physical machine. So basically, network. Yung external storage na yun holds the VHDs of my servers. Hiniwalay ko yung mga servers. Kasi, usually, ang dinidemo ko dito, deployment. So, Windows 7 deployment. So, if you say Windows 7 deployment, ibig sabihin, habang nagde-deploy ka, matindi yung reading sa isa, matindi yung writing sa isa. Matindi yung reading doon sa server, matindi yung writing doon sa client. Kailangan ko siyang pag-iwalay. Okay? So, yung mga servers ko, nasa isang iSCSI na storage, external storage on iSCSI. Then, yung aking client, nasa isang pinitsugid lang na hard disk na naando sa loob ng machine. Okay? So yun yung una. If you plan to set up your Hyper-V lab, say for example, what do you plan to do with it? If it's something, basically, deployment, planuhin nyo yung hard disk nyo because the reading and writing on the same hard disk, okay, hindi siya magandang experience. So, just right-click here, I can create, after yung storage na ano nyo, then your next worry is the virtual networks, the networks. Okay? How do you plan to configure yung network doon sa Hyper-V machine nyo? What do I mean? Will you have virtual machines that only talk amongst themselves? Will you have virtual machines that need to talk outside but not internet? Will you have virtual machines that need to go really outside internet? Okay? Kasi, pwede nyo i-isolate yung virtual machines nyo from external influence by just creating a virtual network na sila lang ang pwede mag-communicate. I mean, if you ask me, Jay, kailangan ba? Yes. In my deployment lab, I don't really need to connect to the internet, yung aking mga deployment images, because for one thing, ayoko mag-patch siya. And since you have Windows Update, di ba? Pag na-deploy na image, mag-trigger ng Windows Update siya. Ayoko na mangyari yan because the deployment demo is done. Why do I need to worry about Windows Update? Okay? This is lab environment. So that's one. Again, pag may image ka na gusto mong to access your external network, then that's another. Or access internet, that's another. Okay? In this case, kailangan mong gumamit ng, mag-configure ng virtual network. Okay, Hyper-V Manager. Saan nga ba yung tagal ko na hindi kinalimutan sa nakalimutan ko? Virtual machine. Virtual network yun. Okay. Sorry. Dapat pala ginawa ko. Okay. So you have three types of network. External, internal, and private. External, nagkakaroon siya ng communication doon sa physical network type nyo. Tama? Okay. So, tama. Ibig sabihin, whatever configuration ng virtual network nyo, okay, whatever configuration of virtual network nyo, yung IP address settings, it will be potentially, pwede siya makipag-communicate sa other physical networks na kung saan nakakonekta yung Hyper-V machine. So, say for example, you want a virtual machine, yung deployment server nasa virtual machine, pero gumagawa kayo ng image na kailangan sensitive sa drivers. So, mga laptops, yung mga Lenovo laptops, kailangan i-testing nyo itong si image na to that kailangan gumagana dito sa laptop na to. So in this case, kailangan nyo ng external na network. Okay? Internal network, only the virtual machine running on this machine. Okay? Only the virtual machines that run on this machine and between the virtual machine and the physical machine. Okay? Example, yung virtual machines ko, hindi ko na nilalagay yung source files ko dun sa virtual machine itself kasi laki-laki ng VHD nun. But yung source files ko nasa hard disk ng physical machine. Ulit. Kasi siyempre pag nag-Windows 7 deployment ka, kailangan mo ng WIM ng Windows 7. Kailangan mo ng source files sa Windows 7. So where do I place those source files? Doon ba sa virtual machine? Hindi, lalaki ng gusto yung VHD mo, yung virtual machine file. So I leave out my source files doon sa hard disk ng physical machine, nitong machine na to. So for me to access that virtually, kailangan meron akong internal network so that the virtual machine can access the hard disk as a file share ng physical machine and only up to that level. Hindi na siya lalabas. So from virtual to physical. Si private, lahat virtual on this machine. So yung deployment ko na server to test deployment doon sa client, I don't need to go out. Okay, I just create a private network. Okay, so alamin nyo how your images need to access the network. Okay, kung lab yan, most probably pa-private na lang yan. Pero kung sa real world environment, pwede rin naman na yung server nyo maraming NIC, and some of those NICs can be used for management, connect to Active Directory, okay, and access internet. Okay, so pipiliin nyo doon using external. Question?
Pwede ba CVM configure as clustered? Clustered server?
Si Hyper-V.
VM is, let's say nandun yung database ko sa VM. Pero I wanted to make it a clustered server.
Do you want, hindi siya recommended. Pwede, di ba? Okay. Pwede, di ba? Okay, the question, pwedeng gawin bang cluster host ang VM na machine? Technically pwede. Tama. I-validate mo ako. Technically pwede, pero when the customer asks me that, recommend ko lang.
SanDisk. Sa SanStorage.
Okay, sige. Meron ng magandang question eh. So, Joey, ano ko yung question mo? So pwede bang gamitin cluster host ang Hyper-V virtual machine? Pwede. Hindi i-recommend. So, follow through ko yung question. So, Jay, ano yung re-recommend mo simulan ng virtual? Okay? When you're planning out your Hyper-V deployment sa customers, ano yung pwedeng low risk na deployment? Okay? Una ko mga target, ito. Yung mga domain controllers. Okay. Why? Kailangan nyo bang high availability mga domain controller? Of course, right? Of course. Pero, paano ba ang high availability ng mga domain controllers? Clustering? Hindi naman yata supported ang clustering sa domain controllers. Di ba? Failover. Pero, if you ask me, dun sa host itself. But if you ask me, the high availability ng domain controller is not really clustering. It's another domain controller. Right? It's just a matter of transferring these two roles from one domain controller to another, seizing the role if ever may catastrophic failure dun sa na. So, yun yung una kong recommendation. Okay? Mga domain controllers. Masyadong malakas na target for virtualization. Another thing, well, it depends on your organization, yung traffic at saka utilization ng domain controller, hindi ganun active compared to a database server. Right? Compared to a database server. So, you can, and companies actually purchase very powerful machines to become domain controllers. Okay, my recommendation, tingnan nyo yung load ng domain controller. And later on, papakita ko sa inyo kung paano, how to do that. Tingnan nyo yung load ng domain controller and try to identify kung yung investment nyo sa machine ng domain controllers nyo sulit doon sa aming actual utilization niya. Okay. Then, after that, you can decide on whether to virtualize your domain controllers. And Jay, paano yan? The high-risk domain controller kung mawala. Well, pagdating sa domain controller, say for example, you have only two domains, forest root at saka si channel domain, or forest root at isang tree root na domain. Then, allocate two physical machines for those two domains, kahit tigisa, very high available machines, then the rest of the instances of the domain controllers, virtual na. Which is another thing na ginawa ko for another Singapore company. Okay? Yung mga, I just suggested one physical domain controller na highly available per domain, per domain, then the rest of the domain controllers are virtual. Okay? What are the rest? Ang wag niyong say exchange nyo mailbox server, no way. Client access servers, pwede pa. Okay? But this time, yung mga CAS nyo, client access servers, kailangan maganda yung network connectivity and of course yung mga memory and processor requirements. But not the mailbox servers. In fact, ang general rule ko for Hyper-V, basta yung processing lang na servers, yung wala masyadong disk I/O, okay, ang magandang candidate for virtualization. Okay? But anything na may disk, matindi yung disk I/O niya, baka pwede huwag. Hindi ko sinasabing hindi pwede, pero those are the last things in my mind para i-virtualize. Okay. So after this, then magkikreate tayo ng panibagong virtual machine. So new virtual machine, so in this case, virtual machine wizard naman siya. So, demo. Then I can store the virtual machine in a different location. So nung chinek ko to, una, nasa drive C siya. Okay. Kung meron tayong allocated na space for the virtual machine, then we can customize it. Lagay ko dito. In this case, ito yung huli kong ginamit. So yun yung sinasuggest. But of course, you can actually use other locations. Click on next. So ilan yung memory niya? 5 to. Okay, demo na naman to. Connection, kung na-create nyo na yung network, that's why sinabi ko kanina, una yung gagawin yung creation ng network because dito na yung kakailangan yan. So, connected say sa aking lab network. My lab network is a private one. Yung among the VMs only. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. It depends. Halimbawa, in this case, yung aking lab network, meron ng DHCP server yan kasi it's a deployment lab. So, gumagamit ako ng Windows Deployment Services that require DHCP. So, it depends on what you plan to use Hyper-V for. Diba, kung deployment lab, dapat meron na kayong means to acquire yung IP address. Of course, kung lalagay nyo siya sa isang physical na network, kung gagawin yung available yung network niya to the physical, the real world network, then dapat may DHCP server na kayo dun sa inyong network. Hyper-V doesn't give you the IP address. Yes. Okay. Treat Hyper-V as nag-install kayo ng bagong makina. But in this case, walang bagong physical machine. Treat it that way.
So yung internal network would be provided by a VM that has a DHCP.
Yes, by another, in this case, okay, ito lang yung yung naming convention ko na ginamit ko sa lab ko. My lab network is the network of my VMs.
Internal.
Okay, internal. May DHCP server, yung internal network na yan. Sorry, may another machine
Right.
that is running DHCP server on this network. Ang isa pang papakita ko sa mamaya dyan, pakalala mo yung pwede ka mag-separate ng virtual net, ng not virtual networks, VLANs. Okay? Isa pang magandang quality ng Hyper-V is among your virtual networks, pwede ka pang mag-separate into different VLANs.
VLAN ID.
Yep. Question. Okay, ako naman magbabato ng tanong.